Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in once again to the Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur TV show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is the second dose of your daily vitamins. So let's get into this story because this is absolutely crazy. Okay, now this woman took her daughter to get her hair braided, and so she says that she was nearly attacked and assaulted after she refused to tip. Now she says she didn't want to tip because it took 10 hours or more to have her child's hair finished, when it usually should take no more than about 3 hours. So she wasn't satisfied with the service, and she went ahead and paid, and I believe she paid like $135. But because she didn't tip, she says that this woman and a gang of her friends or whoever came out with weapons and all of that, trying to force their way into her vehicle, and then in the process, cutting off some of her child's braids. Okay, this is also nefarious. So let's get into it. Everyone, please be sure to get the likes up. Thank you in advance. Now, I'm going to share my screen and go to this news report. This is also egregious. Then I put my overlay on here as usual, so I don't have any copyright issues.
Thanks for inviting us in. It's 11 o'clock, and tonight an Indianapolis mom says she was nearly attacked and her 6-year-old daughter's braids were cut off her head. She says it all started because she didn't tip her hairdresser. Our Chase Howell talked with the mom who recorded the whole encounter over the weekend.
AJ Haley says she took this cell phone video of a woman trying to force her way into her car, ripping the door handle off in the process as Haley's 6-year-old daughter Kensley screams in fear.
When I seen that doorknob being pulled off, I just knew, like, this is a situation that has gone way too far.
Haley says the woman in the video just finished braiding her daughter's hair. She says it cost her about $135 and that the session lasted nearly 10 hours, when she says it typically takes 3 or 4. And when Haley says she told a braider she wasn't satisfied with the service and wasn't tipping, the woman became aggressive.
Now, I'm sorry. Make this make sense. She was doing all of this so aggressive and hostile over a tip, not because the woman simply refused to pay her anything at all, but all of this over a tip. Now, this is getting absolutely outrageous because the tip is just a courtesy. Okay, not anything that you're necessarily owed. And if, in fact, she did take extended hours to finish the child's hair, I could absolutely see why the mother didn't want to tip. But my question is, rather than the mother sitting there and, recording this whole thing, why didn't she just drive away? I mean, the child was screaming. Clearly, she was frightened and traumatized. And then, had she just driven away, maybe they wouldn't have been able to cut the child's hair. Now, of course, I'm not victim blaming and saying it's her fault, but in that situation, I think that it would have been best for her just to drive away rather than sitting there trying to record these fools, because clearly these people, just were doing the most, the absolute most. Okay, please pay attention. And then some of them, they say, came out with weapons. Okay, so she should absolutely have driven away. I would not have been sitting there trying to record anything at that point.
Even blocking her from leaving the shop.
She didn't want me to leave at all. I kind of had to bogart my way through the door. As soon as I got out of the door, she grabbed my daughter's arm and said that she was going to take her braids out.
Haley says once she was able to get a hold of her daughter, they both got into the car. That's when Haley says a group of people, some of them with guns, started surrounding her. Haley's daughter watching it all.
I want my mom to get hurt or anything because her friends was she had a lot of friends, and my mom only had one person.
That one person, Haley says, was Kensley's aunt. Haley says while the aunt was trying to calm the situation down, one of the women's friends was able to cut off some of Kensley's braids.
My heart just broke. My heart broke in that moment because I just felt like as a mom, I was supposed to protect her. And as a mother, I felt like I failed when all I was trying to do was protect her.
I did reach out to the woman the allegations are against to get her side of the story, but I never heard back. Reporting in Indianapolis, Chase Howell, 13 News.
Absolutely egregious. Okay, that's absolutely crazy as far as I'm concerned. Like I said, honey, as soon as they started coming out of the door, and then there's a group of them coming and they have weapons and all of that, I would have driven off. And if they just tried to surround my car, well, if I needed to, I would have driven over them. Because what I wouldn't do is sit there and subject my child to possibly being assaulted, attacked, or even shot. This is absolutely crazy. Now, the question is, are these people who demand and expect tips, are they in fact getting out of hand? Not just in this scenario, but in other scenarios as well. Because you may remember that just a few years ago, I believe it was, a woman went viral for not tipping on a $350 hair service. And so the people, some people started, reached out to different hairstylists to ask them what they thought about this. Okay. So let's talk about it, because they say more than 70% of Americans believe the expectation on tip has increased in the last 5 years. And people need to realize a tip is not something that is guaranteed. It is not something that is necessarily owed to you. A tip is a gratuity that you receive when you have done a good job, and the person feels that they want to reward you extra other than just the normal cost. But some of these people are just doing the most as far as I'm concerned. Now, here's what they say in this report. Tipping the person who cut your hair may seem obvious enough, but a response to a viral video suggests that there's still confusion about gratuity on beauty services. So on Sunday, Justice, a TikToker who uses the handle @Anti-Diet Pilot, posted about how she decided not to tip on a $350 hair braids that she recently got. Now, the braids were small, knotless braids with a French curl on the end, and it took more than 7 hours to complete. So while Justice was happy with the results, she called the stylist the best braider she'd ever had, as she had her reasons for not foregoing a tip. She didn't have, and this is what she says, she didn't have to commute, and she's not paying any overhead because she works from home. This is what Justice explained in the TikTok video, which garnered over 5.1 million views, by the way, when this all occurred. She says, I think that's a really good price. How many people are making roughly $40 an hour? And so Justice says that she was a little nervous about how her stylist would react to her not tipping, but ultimately she's unapologetic about her decision. Now, she says a lot of people say tipping is how you say thank you, but to me, saying thank you is how you say thank you. Okay, respecting people's policies, arriving to your appointment on time, letting them take pictures of their work after, and then telling your friends on social media, your followers, about them is how you say thank you. Well, I agree. That could be a way of, showing your appreciation. Word of mouth is sometimes the best advertisement. Okay. And at the end of the day, listen, it's up to people to decide whether or not they want the tip. Maybe some people don't have the tip after they paid in excess of $300 to get the hair done. At the end of the day, regardless as to whether they tip or not, no one should be held captive. No one should be assaulted and attacked, berated, or belittled, or any of those things simply because they didn't leave a tip. And when you behave that way and act so foolishly, it just more, to me, warrants the fact that they didn't give you one, okay? Because clearly this is who you really are. I mean, I don't see why you would be so pressed after you got the money that you charged them. Okay, but some people seem to have a sense of entitlement as far as I'm concerned. Now, they go on to say that not everyone agreed. Some who were in favor of tipping pointed to how long the session took. Not tipping on your fast food or Starbucks is fine, but 7.5 hours, I would never not tip, a woman says. Now, most commenters seem to agree with Justice, though. With inflation already driving up prices, many said they increasingly feel that tipping culture has gotten out of control. Okay, I have to agree. Okay, I have to agree, because here's the thing. Listen, it seems like everybody wants a tip these days, and for things that they're already being paid to do. Let me just give you an example. if you go into a restaurant or you go into a place like Subway, for example, okay, they have a tip jar there. And of course, you can tip if you want to. But at the end of the day, what are you tipping them for? Usually, tips are reserved for waiters and waitresses at these dine-in places. When they come and bring you drinks, they refill your glasses, they, serve you your food. Now, if you're walking up to a counter at a Subway or some other fast food place, and the person is fixing your sandwich, fixing your salad, or whatever you're ordering, which is what they're paid hourly to do anyway, I don't see why they think that you owe them a tip. Now, of course, you can give them a tip if you like to, but at the end of the day, do they feel like they're owed a tip? Like they have to get one, or you're just being rude if you don't? I just disagree. I think that in many cases, people are just becoming to feel entitled. Okay. If you're making hourly wages, all right, you should not be dependent on tips as well. Now, these people who live off of tips and they're paid, like people at the Waffle House and things like that, these people work on tips. Okay. So they absolutely should be tipped if they're doing a good job and all of that. But if you're fixing a sandwich or a salad or whatever, preparing food that you're always supposed to be doing anyway, and you're getting an hourly wage, and this is what you were hired to do, I don't think that a tip is necessarily warranted, although someone may feel free to give it to you, but I don't think ever they should be upset because they didn't receive one. Now, that's just me. Feel free to agree or disagree. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about it. Okay? Now, it goes on to say that most of them think that the culture has gotten out of control about this tipping. They say the entire cost is going to her. Tipping isn't required. That's what one person commented saying. Another said, absolutely right. People who braid or do makeup definitely charge their worth. Tipping culture in the U.S. is crazy sometimes. Let me tell you something. If you are charging $350 to do someone's hair, some braids or whatever, the tip isn't already included. Now, if you do an exemplary job, okay, yeah, I would give you a tip. But if I'm already paying you $350 to do braids, okay, at the end of the day, I'm not going to say for a fact that I will give you a tip. Now, if you did a really good job, yes. But if I had to sit there for an extended period of time, like if I usually would go get my braids done somewhere else, of course, I don't have braids, I have locks, but I'm just speaking hypothetically. But if I were to go and get my braids done somewhere else, where it took me like 3 or 4 hours, and then I come to someone who takes 7.5 hours, well, no, I'm absolutely not going to feel that you're warranting a tip, okay, in that case. Now, that's just my opinion. But, the good thing about it for me is the fact that I do my own hair. Okay, I've always done my own hair. I used to be a hairstylist back in the day. But at the end of the day, see, this is the thing. People feel like they're owed more than what they actually are. And then the nerve of them to get mad and hostile and want to fight, chase you out of a salon, running up to your car and breaking the door handle, and then having goons come out with weapons. This is all crazy. And then cutting off that child's hair. First of all, the mother supposedly paid her the $135 for those braids. So because she didn't choose to give a tip, because it took a large amount of time, more than she anticipated, you're going to cut the child's braids off? Honey, I would be taking her to court. This woman should have been arrested. All of the thugs who came upon her and were around her car trying to hold her there and all of this, they should all have been arrested. I just wonder if she pressed charges. Okay, because I would have had every last one of them in jail, all right? And I would be suing them for punitive damages, okay, for cutting my child's hair and all of that, and to get my money back and everything else, and for damaging the vehicle, ripping the door handle off. This is absolutely crazy. Okay, and it's very ghetto, too, just to say. Now, for better or for worse, tipping remains the Wild West. More than 70% of Americans believe the expectation to tip has increased in the last 5 years. Okay, this is according to a 2023 survey from the Pew Research Center. But few know what to do when a tablet with a tipping option is handed to them. Only about a third say it's extremely or very easy to know if tipping is necessary, and if so, how much to include. Listen, I'm going to tip you what you're worth. I'm going to tip you what you're worth. That's what I've always done. See, I don't think that it should be set in stone that you get a certain amount of gratuity. Because what if your service isn't up to par? Okay? What if you don't do what you're supposed to do? What if you're lax in your job and your servicing? So definitely, I think that tipping is optional. And everyone should look at it as such. You should not feel that someone owes you a tip necessarily, whether you think that you did a good job or not. At the end of the day, it's up to the individual. And also, like I said, tips should be given, in my opinion, according to the work and the the job that you did, if you did a good job or whatever. Don't just think that you're owed it. Now, the whole conversation on tipflation and what's a fair gratuity left out an important voice: the hairstylists themselves. How do we feel about tip fatigued customers like the lady on TikTok? Now, as far as the video goes, one person says, I don't blame her. A hairstylist in Inglewood, Florida, by the name of Colin Martin says, okay, and he said that he obviously appreciates clients who tip, but he doesn't expect it either. He's been screwed, or he'd be screwed if he did that. Okay, he says, to base even a portion of my income on the emotional response of another human being, that's just crazy. Do I even have to finish this sentence? Okay, I have learned to never bank on it, and I have been a much happier hairdresser ever since. Now, instead of relying on tips, Martin said that he prefers to just charge my work. And you see, that's what I did. When I was doing hair, I charged people what I felt it was worth. Okay? And I wouldn't negotiate with you. When I set my price, that's what you paid. Now, if you tipped, that was fine. And if you didn't tip, that too was fine. Okay? So, knowing your value is the most important part of being a hairdresser, he says. Now, John Mosley, a barber and men's grooming expert in Dallas, Texas, agreed. He said, I don't see anything wrong if a client decides not to tip. Now, today, Mosley's client list includes Kendrick Lamar and Eminem. But when he began working as a barber, Mosley's clients weren't always so moneyed. Okay? Even so, most of them tipped. Now, in your local barbershop, clients kind of feel like they're supporting the business and helping the business to make up for what they might lose in lower prices, Mosley says. Now, J. Clark Walker, a barber and owner at Major Studios in Salt Lake City, Utah, thought the TikTok had some valid points. The TikToker basically had some valid points, saying that still he had a hunch that her stylist was pretty surprised that there was no tip after 7 hours on her feet for a top-notch service. Now, if you can afford it, I think you should always leave a little tip. Well, I don't think you should always leave a little tip just because you can afford it. Okay, that's the thing. You see, and that's another thing. Some people want to count your money. They want to pocket watch you. Depending on what kind of job you have, depending on what kind of car you're riding in, what kind of diamonds you're wearing on your fingers, if you're a celebrity or not, they think that the tip should be based on that. And I don't think so. I don't agree. I think that the tip should be based on the service that was given. And then while some people would say that 7.5 hours on your feet is a good reason for you to be owed a tip, but I say it could be, but it also could not be. Because as I said previously, if it's a service that could be done in 3 to 4 hours, if you went somewhere else, and this person takes 7.5 hours, at the end of the day, yeah, I wouldn't think that a tip was warranted in that case. Okay, so it just depends on how you look at it. Now, he's had great clients that don't tip, some that never have, and a whole bunch that just forgot. But it's obviously very noticeable when a client tips well, he said. You remember great tippers for sure. Well, of course you do. Now, Tamara Nicole is a stylist who specializes in wig making and weave installations. Now, at the high-end full-service hair salon she works at in Culver City, California, her various services run from $175 to $850. There are no hard feelings when someone doesn't tip, but she admits that she does often wonder if they're not 100% happy with her service. If they return, I use that as an opportunity to provide them with a better service. This is what she said. Not everyone was so forgiving of the TikToker and her non-tipping ways. One person said, I think the woman in the video is the worst type of client. Okay, basically saying that she felt like the woman was wrong for not tipping. And this is a person who, mind you, performs hair extensions. She specializes in these, and her services run from anywhere from $85 to $675. She says she doesn't respect people in the beauty industry, but I bet she would at a restaurant when the bill is $400. 7 hours is a long time to work on someone's hair. Now, Anderson told HuffPost that she probably wouldn't see the client after that. I would block her or refer her to an amateur. Well, that would just be foolish on their part, because if someone's paying you $350 for a service, are you really going to not want to do their hair again just because they didn't tip? At the end of the day, I'm sorry, I wouldn't stop doing their hair just because they didn't tip. Okay. Now, given the rising prices of products and running a business, namely rents and other overhead costs, many stylists now include a tip in their service charge. Okay, that may take some kind of awkwardness out of the situation for those who worry about the right amount to give, but it could rub others the wrong way, according to Nicole Jones, a stylist and owner of Yara Lux Hair Perfume, a high-end salon in Miami, Florida. Honey, this is all crazy, including nefarious. You all please drop me a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this, whether you think people are owed a tip, regardless as to whether the service was subpar, or whether you think that, because someone took a long time to finish the service, that they deserve more of a tip or whatever. Just let me know what you think. Do you think that tipping has gotten out of hand in this country? Just let me know. With that all being said, each of you enjoy the rest of this beautiful day. Okay. And be sure to leave me a comment. All right. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives.